Hello my beautiful friends, my name is Khoreva and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today finally we are discussing how I make my ballet shoes. So how I prepare pointe shoes for performing on stage. I'm super excited, but I've been preparing this video for so long. I've been wanting to film it, but it's just, every time preparing a pointe shoe is just a lot of work. So I really wanted to show you everything, all of the steps in many details. So hopefully today I managed to do so. I did a lot of preparations, so without further ado, let's dive in. So here I have my almost fresh shoe. So here I already pre-cut the Atlas material on the tip because I'm going to darn it and to grate it on a vegetable grater, which we're going to discuss later. This is a Bloch Serenade Strong shoe and I've been wearing them for many years. I would say I started wearing them when I was at the 4th grade at Vaganova Academy, so it's been a long journey with these, trusty. So this is a very fresh shoe, and as you can see, it's like pretty much straight, and the tip, it's quite rounded at the edges, and therefore it's not very stable. And I love to customize my shoe to be a little bit more stable and to grip onto the floor a little bit better, and to make it better for balances, for turns, and just for feet articulation. So now I'm going to show you all of the steps that I do, and the first one is to stand on the box and to break the box. So I just stand up, and this is probably going to look really violent of me. I just stand with my heel like this on the box and just crack just a couple of times, and here we go. So it has flattened down, and now I can fit my foot into the box. So it was narrow and it was wide here but narrow here, but now I've flattened it and now it's ready to fit my foot inside it. You can see there are two straps inside the shoe, and I tighten them for the shoe to sit more proper on my foot. I always kind of flex my Achilles to give a little bit more room, because if I just tie these straps when my foot is relaxed, it's going to be too tight, which is why I tie them with my foot flexed and tensed. This way it makes the foot bigger. The tie is going to be the exact right amount of tightness, if you know what I mean, if this makes any sense. I usually do around 3-4 ties. Then I cut it and I leave just a little bit of it hanging out in order to then sew it back on so that it doesn't make a messy appearance of the pointe shoe. So then I sew it back on. This done, and now the shoe is ready. So now here's the sole of the shoe, and as you can see, it's like really firm. You cannot really use the foot articulation with this sole like this because it's very straight, and I needed to bend together with my foot to emphasize the arch of the foot. So that's why I start my manipulations with the sole of the shoe. I have my knife, so I have to get inside the sole here, just in here with this knife, because it has two soles, the outer sole and the inner sole, which enhances the strength of the sole, the strength of support of the shoe. I have to get inside there with the knife like this, and then I have to crack it open like this, and then I have to pull, because here's the nail which holds the whole construction together, two nails, and this nail I will leave at its place, and this nail I will pull out using this device. And yeah, so I will half the sole and then I will take out the nail, which on this pair of shoes, on this particular shoe, I already did off camera, not to make everyone scared. So here's how the shoe looks already detached. So you can see inside there's this red thing which also makes the shoe stronger, the support stronger, and there's this outer sole which is quite strong and this inner sole which is also strong. So then what I do is I break this outer sole like this. I mean, it looks violent, but that is what I have to do with all of the shoes in order for them to even, dancing in them for longer, because that way the sole is going to get softer the way I need it and not the way it will naturally do. So I bent this one quite hard, and then I also bent the inner sole together with the outer sole, not as low, but around you know, just under the heel, just to make the very top part a little bit softer. Not too much, because I still need a lot of strength in this area, because I struggle with too soft of shoes, so I just need that exact area. So that's done. And then we are continuing on to the very interesting part, which is considering the tip. I will introduce you to my vegetable grater. And as I've already mentioned, the tip of the initial shoe is a little bit rounded and it's not very comfortable for the pirouettes and balances. So I use this grater to grate the excess layers of this shoe in order to make it flatter. So just holding onto something, standing or wearing this shoe and just grating the tip towards the brown layer, because the brown layer is not slippery. The green layer, which comes before the brown layer, is slippery, but the brown layer is the way to go. And the very important thing is I grate it until it's even. I try to grate it until it's even all the way around, and it really influences so much. So for example, if I have some of the green layer left somewhere in some area of the shoe, it will be super unstable. So I really have to pay a lot of attention to grating the shoe properly. Putting on the shoe, going to stand on the grater, just using my weight. I have a lot of these graters back at home, just twisting. I know it's weird, it looks really weird, and it looks like I'm butchering the shoe. So I'm checking every once in a while if I'm doing this even. So as you probably can see, there are layers appearing, and this green layer, it means that I don't have enough pressure here, so then I put more pressure on the area where I have more layers, and I try to make the tip even. So as you can see, it's already starting to appear a lot more brown, but I just have some more work to do. And I think we're almost done. All right. And I think we are at a proper level of evenness on this shoe, and here's how it looks grated. And now, as we've butchered this poor shoe almost completely, let's perform some magic tricks on it. So before sewing the ribbons and elastics, because I need the shoe to last very long, for me, I hot glue and shellac it to make it last longer and to make it stronger, even stronger than it is already. So I've softened the sole, but now I needed to also serve me a good duty. Because we have grated the tip, you know, there is a high possibility of breakage now because it's thinner. That's why I use my trusty hot glue for the tip. So I glue inside of the tip to make the surface a little bit thicker and a little bit more stable. So this is the glue which is hot and which is drying instantly. And I put a rather thin layer of glue inside, and I would also use the hot glue after I start wearing the shoe to make it stronger. So after I've already started wearing it, if I see that it's starting to soften, I will use it around the sole here and inside the sole also. Around the sides, and it really works magic to make the shoe stronger and last a little bit longer. If the shoe is deadening too fast, the glue saves. And then when I've glued the tip, I will shellac the sole. I don't know why I'm explaining this to you guys, but with shellac, I feel like it's giving the elastic strength to the sole, while the glue breaks and the shellac is very elastic. So that's why I love using the shellac for the sole before I start working, because it also, weirdly enough, really makes the shoe wearing experience that much better. So this is shellac, which is normally used to paint over an icon, over a painting, and I use this Baskin-Robbins spoon, and I just pour a little bit, almost the full spoon, I would say, inside, and carefully spread over the outer sole. You can see it changes the color, and it can be scary at first, but then when it dries down, it actually makes it look quite nice, which I also like. I spread it all around, again, a thin layer, because if you make it too much, it will go outside the edges, which we don't want. And that's it. So I would perform this on both of the shoes, of course. This is how the shoe looks dried down. So it dries for around a couple of hours, but better to dry overnight or over the course of 24 hours. And so then finally it's time to make some of the sewing actions. And first we darn the tip. I mean, it looks very weird right now, but to make it even more stable and even more beautiful, like kind of tidy looking, I darn it. And I use the synthetic thread and big sturdy needle. And I also use this tool, which I don't know how to say in English. I want to incorporate in my darning as many layers as possible to make it last longer again. So I need some support for my poor fingers. And I use a lighter to make tie at the end of the thread. And then I go inside like this, trying to get as many layers here as possible. And here is when I will use the help of my trusty friend here and taking it out, making sure it's all even. The darning technique is actually quite simple. I will just go through and going through this loop actually. So every time I do the stitch, I go through the loop. So it's not as easy as your usual sewing because it's many layers. And then just making a little gap in between the stitches, continuing just like this. So going through the layers and not letting the thread twist. Always doing, especially when I'm making the video, weirdly enough, and going through the loop. And I'll show you once again, through as many layers as possible, going through and through the loop. Okay, kind of like this. This is how the shoe looks finished. Of course, when I wear it, it will spread out a little bit more and it will create an even wide platform. But now it's time to sew the ribbons and elastics. I love the matte ribbons because they grab onto the foot and they give me more of a feeling of stability. And I sew an elastic for my heel not to slip down because it happens very often. It tends to happen with my anatomy, I don't know. And I also like sewing on the elastic, transparent one that you cannot really see from afar from the audience, around my arch of the foot to give me a little bit more of a support again. So I will just use my usual thread and needle for this, not a double thread, but just a single. I feel like it makes it tighter and less visible that you sew on things on. And the ribbons, they will, so when I fold the shoe like this, around this place I will sew my ribbons, just like this. And around this stitch, just where my arch of the foot goes, I will sew this elastic. And for the other elastic, which is, you know, a very strong one, I will sew it just where the heel, quite narrow, to give me as much support as it possibly can. And voila, this is the finished result. Everything is covered with elastics and ribbons. And yes, I forgot to mention that before starting to work, unfortunately, I have to do one more step because I've cracked the sole open. This outer layer of fabric always sticks out, so I have to sew it back on as well, because when it's glued down, but when you unstick it, it loses the grip and it tends to, you know, scrunch down at the most uncomfortable times. So during the very intense rehearsal, when you have no time, it scrunches and makes the rehearsal very uncomfortable. So I try to make sure beforehand that the shoe is ready to work. And before starting to work with the shoe, I also, before the first rehearsal, I spray the box with a little bit of water for it to, you know, melt a little bit around my foot better. And yeah, so this is the ready result, the shoe that is ready for work. Probably when I start working, because every shoe is very different and every ballerina will tell you that every shoe is different. It doesn't depend that they, you know, get manufactured. For some reason, all of the pairs of shoes have their little tiny differences. So that's why it will probably, I will make it, but it will probably need some more adjustments. And this is when I will use my hot glue, maybe sew something, and maybe some more water for the sole or for the box, and just, you know, doing trust releves and doing some of the movements, ballet moves, rehearsals, undos and stuff. And yeah, So this is the result, and this shoe is pretty much ready to go for the rehearsal. I usually like rehearsing at least once in the shoes before going on stage. Hopefully this video was interesting for you guys. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave your questions in the comments, please. I will try answering them, and leave your other video ideas in the comments as well. Subscribe to the channel if you like videos like this to not miss out the new ballet related content, which I'm planning to make a lot of now. And yeah, as always, love you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next videos. Bye bye.